From Mitra to speak few words.
Thank you, ma'am. I belong to Mitra Energy, and we are from the renewable energy side, around 2000 megawatt renewable power, wind and solar. And also we ventured into, when nobody was there more or less in this particular ecosystem, in the intercity buses, EV buses. So we started the journey from there. The entire ecosystem, the ecosystem was not present. So there was a tough journey. Now the things have moved a lot. What we have done in the last 1.5 years is to get into the EV ecosystem investment. So we have started investing in the ecosystem. Recently, 6 months back, we invested in a 3-wheeler L5 electric vehicle OEM. We are also exploring investment in the EV fintech. Now, in the entire discussion, we are missing one thing, that anything and everything has to be revolving around the financing. People can talk of technology, very good. People are working on that. Somebody has to finance the OEMs. That is the missing link. This EV ecosystem cannot sustain 25%, 30% interest rate for this particular journey to continue. Not at all possible. When the other OEMs are getting, ICE vehicles are getting at 12 to 13%, 11 to 13% interest rate. So that is one of the area where government, ecosystem players, they have to work together, and much more role to be played by the government in terms of giving some sort of priority sector lending status to them, subsidized loan to certain extent, those sort of aspects for the demand generation, that is very, very much there. But still, the price of electric vehicle may be twice and 2.5 times as compared to the ICE vehicle. So government is giving the subsidy, but ultimately these things also needs to be placed. So we are very intensely looking into the EV fintech space, startup investment. So that's the area where we are just trying to solve some of the jigsaw puzzles from our side as an investor. Now, the people are talking about BMS, TMS or something. Now, BMS, my take is something like this. BMS is going to be commoditized. So the number of people who are working on the BMS system like that, creating this particular thing, well done. They are doing it. They can do wonders. But my 2 cents will be that the specific component in that particular part, if somebody can be able to bring efficiency and the performance improvement, that will be the key. Because there are so many BMS players which is there in the Indian market right now. And maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, you can find maybe 10 to 12 BMS integrated players that will be there. That is going to be commoditized. So the persons like you who are into this particular journey, they should target and create a niche for themselves in that particular part, whether it's the powertrain or in the BMS. So those things are very, very important. Another area where the things are going to be changing in a big way, swapping. So that is one of the area where lots of investment is going to be happening. My feel is that the investment will a bit slow down in the charging station, because now it has more or less commoditized. Swapping with the good technology and integrated technology and solution, that is going to be having a next wave in the next 2 to 3 years time frame. And the government policy is also enabling that. And there is a real demand from the e-commerce players, from the last mile delivery people, because it really reduces the cost of the vehicle by 50%, by 40 to 50%. So it really enables that particular part. So So I feel that that is one of the area which is going to be there. In the powertrain, what I have seen is that the companies, the startups are getting acquired by the OEMs, by the players who are very much there in the ICE engine motors. So they are acquiring. So that sort of trend which is happening. Very recently, Rizal, we were looking very closely at that Rizal. That has been acquired by Forging or something. So that is a trend which is happening. So keep this in mind when you are working in some of these areas. Try to create niche for yourself. Anyone who is working in this particular area, don't get into the area which is a me too now. That days are over. That's the 2 cents from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh sir. Now I'd like to welcome Srinivas sir and Sinha sir on the stage to present certificates for few of the participants. I'll call next. Please. Please. E. Srividya, G. Karthik Reddy, G. Surya Teja, J. Srivatsav, you're Karthik, right? G. Surya Teja, J. Srivatsav, J. Sohan, J. Sohan, B. Madhuri, B. Mahesh, R. Abhishek, R. Abhishek, N.V. Venkatratnam, Sarat Chandra, Thank you, Sinha sir. Thank you, Srinivas sir. Now I'd like to welcome MSR onto the dais and Dr. Kanakadurga ma'am from MVSR onto the stage. Alcohol. B. Srivatsav, T. Karthik, Vivek. B. Apurva, V. Vivek. Dr. Madhavi, if you can join us on the stage. Lokesh, MSR. Lokesh. D. Pawan Kalyan, J. Srivatsav, okay. V. Sundar Chari, Ali Babar. Let's take a small photo break. Request everyone to join us on the dais.
The speakers.
Okay.
Yeah. Can Jayesh and then the rest of the speakers, can you please come on to the dais, please? Sir, the speakers and the mentors.
Ma'am, you can stay back.
Please, you can also stay back, ma'am. And may I request all the entrepreneurs also to join, all the entrepreneurs also to join, please. Raja, Sri. You can show your certificates and your offer letters. Please come on there. For a photo. Thank you. Thank you.
మహేందర్ ఇక్కడే ఉండండి మీరు.
MSR Garu, can you please come here? Yeah. We would like to honor the dignitaries and then the great men of wisdom who have been guiding us through a small token of love and gratitude. So first, I request Jayesh sir to please come. Sir, please hand it over to him. Come on, guys. Come on. I request Manish to please come. Thank you. I request Raja to please come onto the dais. Raja is CEO, Guy Motorworks, please. Gopal, please. I will give to Gopal, yes. I'll take the privilege. From the conception of this idea till the execution, while I'm on the stage, the one who is behind is Gopal. Yeah? Let's all clap. Thank you.
He's online. Okay. Now, I would like to invite and request Dr. Ravi Gadapalli, who is joining us online. He's consultant with World Bank and UITP, to present a white paper.
Hello everyone, hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Great.
Yeah. So I have a small presentation. Maybe I'll take you through those few slides. Hello everyone. So my name is Ravi Gadapalli. I'm an independent consultant based in Bangalore. So firstly, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to this important event. So I'm glad to see that there are so many youngsters and startups looking at the EV ecosystem in Telangana and how to improve it further. So I'll just take 5-10 minutes to quickly summarize what my suggestions are, maybe to the Telangana government or the startup ecosystem working there. So I'm an independent consultant. My background is transportation engineering. I work on transport projects across the country. and I've been working with Government of India projects on electric mobility as well under the FAME scheme and other schemes. So based on that, these are a few suggestions. I should admit that I haven't worked in detail in Telangana over the past few years, but I'm from Andhra, and so I generally know Hyderabad and the ecosystem there. So a few key points before we get into what should be done is to understand the market outlay. So overall, Telangana is one of the more quickly developing states in the country. The GDP growth rate has been about 11.7% before COVID, which is about 3% higher than Government of India or Pan-India numbers. And Telangana also has a EV policy which has an ambitious target. There are some incentives like waiving the registration tax, but going beyond that and actually achieving the goals requires a multidisciplinary effort. So in that case, we need to focus on a few high priority items. So what I observe is that the overall vehicle ownership in Telangana, even though we all get stuck in congestion and we see cars everywhere, in terms of actual numbers, Telangana only has 29 cars per 1,000 people and 185 two-wheelers per 1,000 people. So which is actually lower than some of the other states, and just absolute numbers as well are lower than some of the other states. But then how are people traveling? It's not like people are sitting at home. They still need to work. They need to go to schools or hospitals and recreation. The primary mode of mobility in terms of vehicles is the TSRTC buses. And in terms of the mode share, they are actually among the highest mode share outside walk in both Hyderabad and the rest of the state. But their fleet size has been stagnant for almost a decade. They have been at 10,000 buses. So we know that the GDP is growing, which means that more women are participating in the workforce. There are more girls studying. But then the public transport is not catching up with the overall demand. So on one hand, we need to improve public transport and also make it electric to reduce its carbon footprint and the operational cost. Because buses are not meeting the travel demand requirements, we see significant growth in the three-wheeler numbers in the state. Just between 2016 and 2019, their numbers increased from 2 lakhs to 4.3 lakhs. By now, it must have reached 4.5 lakhs, which is more than a twofold jump in just a 3-year period. So this clearly shows the need for more public transport in the state. And also, when we target electrification, we need to focus on buses and three-wheelers as the primary target to maximize the number of electric kilometers we have in the state. But electrification is not just a switch in technology. There are several aspects that we need to look at. What are the different technology alternatives? There is battery swapping, there is full range bus or a full range three-wheeler, charging technologies. There are many technology alternatives. There are also business model alternatives to own the vehicle or lease the vehicle or contract out the operations, contract out charging. Then the financing models. For example, three-wheelers are primarily financed by third-party companies like Bajaj Finance, Shriram Finance, who already finance them at 25, 30, 35% interest rate. On top of that, electric vehicle financing is even more expensive. So how can we reduce the financing cost? Then the skill upgradation within the RTCs or even just having mechanics everywhere is more comfortable for a user. Right now, if I have an EV and it gets repaired, I don't know how to handle it also. Then service planning and the route selection, these are more technical details for the bus services. So just getting into details of buses and three-wheelers quickly. So in terms of buses, the key thing is that we call it TCO, total cost of ownership. We see that in many cases, the total cost of ownership of electric buses is already cheaper than diesel buses. So, and diesel costs are only increasing, as we all know. They have never come down really, right? So they may come down briefly, but they'll again go back to where they were previously. And electric buses are already offering cost parity on many of the routes. So what TSRTC needs at this point is to actually just allow them to grow and then provide financing to them, not even subsidies or incentives, just provide financing for transition. And there are so many different models, either they own and operate or outsource the entire operation in this model called gross cost contract. Or if they already have staff, just lease the bus. There is a model called dry lease model where The bus and battery are maintained by an external agency until TSRTC improves its capacity, but the actual operations are handled by the corporation. Similarly, you can unbundle the bus and charging and outsource only part of it depending on the requirement. So there are several business models available and the cost is already cheaper or a life cycle basis. The per bus cost is higher, but because the energy savings are much higher in electric buses, you will recover the cost in 4 or 5 years time. But the upfront capital investment is where the barrier is. Similarly, in case of auto rickshaws, there is the issue of upfront capital expenditure and the lack of financing for private three-wheeler owners. In addition to that, there are many ecosystem level changes that three-wheelers need. And these are across several departments. So there is the transport department which issues the permits. So as per the government of India, there need not be any permits for electric vehicles, but some states have implemented, some have not. I have to admit that I don't know the latest in Telangana. But if it is not implemented, or if you do a controlled pilot also, you can maybe relax a few permits, test out the appetite and then increase later on. And between transport department and the power department, I think TSRED is the one providing charging infrastructure. So the thing is that charging infrastructure is happening on its own and the transport demand is somewhere else. So the agency providing charging assumes that I have already provided charging and the operators don't know where it is or it's not at a convenient location to them. So the coordination between these two agencies is quite important. And having a separate fund for buses and electric three-wheelers is quite important also, ideally within the transport department. Then the municipal corporation can facilitate bulk procurements and parking incentives. The road transport authority can focus on the allowing fleet operators like Ola, Uber to move towards electric, reduce permit fee or completely remove fee. So
Ravi?
to conclude, I'm concluding in a minute.
Yeah, okay.
This is the last slide. So to just give a high-level overview, to move towards actually having large-scale fleets, we need first political commitment. We just have a policy, but beyond that, we need actual political commitment to drive this. Then having a statewide strategy on for different vehicle types, where do you focus and how do you scale up? Then the incentives, either in the form of subsidy, which for three-wheelers or different business models for buses or capital investment for buses. And then the actual deployment and ensuring that the initial numbers work well. Otherwise, if the pilot fails, we blame the technology, saying that the technology failed. A lot of times the operations fail. So the initial deployment is also quite important. So that's a quick overview of what I would think we should prioritize, but back to the organizers. Thanks.
Thank you, Ravi. We will share these inputs with the relevant departments. Thank you for this. Now I would like to welcome onto the stage Gopal Krishna and Raja from Gayam to present few certificates for the participants. G. Alekia, B. Varun, sorry, Alekia, B. Varun, C. Sai Karthik, Yo Varun, Sai Prashant, Sharad Kumar, D. Sharad Kumar, Faisal Hayat Khan,